Some people trust you before you've really earned it. Not after months, not after consistency, sometimes after one conversation. And if you've ever met someone like that, it feels almost disarming. They're open, they're warm, they don't interrogate your intentions. They just take you as you are. At first, it feels refreshing, like finally being around someone who isn't guarded or calculating, until something goes wrong. And then people say things like, they should have known better. They're too naive. But that explanation is a little lazy, because trusting easily isn't always about being unaware. Sometimes it's about how someone learned to move through people, and more importantly, what feels normal to them. Point 1, they don't start from suspicion. Most people don't realize this, but trust and suspicion don't start at the same level for everyone. Some people enter interactions slightly guarded. Others don't. They don't scan for red flags immediately. They don't mentally test you. Their default setting is, you're probably fine. And that changes everything. Because when your starting point is openness, you interpret behavior differently. Example, someone cancels plans last minute. A suspicious mind thinks, something's off. A trusting mind thinks, they probably had a good reason. Same situation. Completely different experience. Point 2, they prioritize connection over control. Now this one is subtle. Some people would rather feel close than feel in control. And those two things don't always go together. Because control requires distance, observation, caution. Connection requires the opposite, presence, openness, a bit of emotional risk. So when someone trusts easily, it's often because they're unconsciously choosing. I'd rather feel connected than protected. And if we're being honest, most people don't admit this, but a lot of us have done it. Especially when the vibe feels right for absolutely no logical reason. Point 3, they assume people operate as they do. This is where psychology gets interesting. There's something called projection bias. It simply means we use ourselves as the reference point for others. So, if you're naturally honest, you don't instinctively prepare for dishonesty. If you keep your word, you expect other people to mean theirs too. Not because you verified it, but because that's how you operate. So, when someone says, trust me, you don't just hear the words. You interpret it through your own standard. And that can make people seem more reliable than they actually are. But here's where it stops being just a matter of personality and starts becoming something deeper. Point 4, trust becomes a way to avoid discomfort. Not all easy trust comes from optimism. Some of it comes from discomfort. Because questioning people is uncomfortable. It introduces tension. It risks awkwardness. It can even feel like you're being difficult. So instead of asking, wait, does this make sense? Some people choose the smoother path. They accept. They go along. They don't challenge. Because in the moment, that feels easier. And honestly, most people don't realize they're doing this. They think they're being kind. But sometimes, they're just avoiding friction. Point 5, their brain learned that quick trust is tantamount to safety. Now this is the part most people miss completely. And it changes how you see everything. For some people, trust wasn't a choice. It was an adaptation. At some point in their life, connection meant safety. And losing connection felt risky. So, their brain learned, secure the connection quickly. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't overanalyze. Because hesitation could cost you closeness. Psychology links this to attachment patterns, especially anxious attachment, where the priority isn't accuracy, it's stability. So trust becomes immediate, not because it's always wise, but because at some point it worked, and the brain keeps repeating what works, even when the environment has changed. Let me ask you something. Be honest with yourself on this one. Do you usually trust people first and then figure things out later? Or are you the opposite? Drop it in the comments. I'm actually curious where most people fall. Trusting easily isn't a flaw. It isn't just about being naive. But it's not always a strength either. It's about how someone experiences people and how they learn to protect themselves. It's a pattern, and like most patterns, it has a reason. Some people learn to protect themselves by building walls. Others learned to protect themselves by opening doors quickly. Neither is perfect, but both make sense once you understand where they come from. And once you see your own pattern clearly, you stop judging it and start refining it. And if this video resonated with you, the next video you should watch is The Psychology of Firstborns. There are some interesting things to learn about them. Stick around and let's learn and grow together. This has been Psychology Amplified. Human behavior made clear.